Hello, folks. It's Thomas here, known to some as TJ, a few as Tom, not too many, perhaps called other various names by other people. And I'm here to actually talk about. I want to sort of get into some thoughts that are harder to share, more uncomfortable to share, because they're ideas and thoughts that even though a lot of people have them, I think have them or feelings. That's not very typical, I think, for people to admit to them. At this point, you may be suggesting all kinds of disclosures I could be making, but actually, I'm really just talking about is loneliness, and loneliness. I think I once thought of this idea of there's no larger group of people than the lonely people, and I think when I thought of that, I felt I was also one of them. Um, when I was married and I separated from my wife about 2 years ago, I think now. During that period, there were some great things about being married. One of them I didn't understand until I was married, but just the presence of another person was a very helpful thing to have around. Being isolated a lot, being lonely, there's kind of a continual discomfort or pain of this sort of awareness of being alone. I think I realized that for myself at least. Even though I've sought a lot of solitude, I'm really not someone who's very happy about being alone. Looking at like the life of people like even Ernest Hemingway, Mr. Solitude, drinks himself to death. I don't know how happy he was. Might not have been because of solitude, but it does seem to be possible that it might have had something to do with loneliness or something like it. And so the feeling, of course, where there was that presence of another person who was caring and familiar and who you cared about too, there's that person's not around. There's this awareness that they may never be around again. There's this great sort of desire or longing to find somebody. Um, and of course, there's always this um, sort of this fear or suggestion: would a divorcee have to find a copy of their spouse? But I'm not really making this into a classified anyway. I don't think for me it's that specific. It's like I don't want another person who is the same exactly as my ex-wife, but just someone to be with, someone to have a decent and meaningful relationship with. Where so it begins to feel a bit like in sort of your there's a lot of songs about this, how like in Bittersweet Symphony, um you're just working, you're struggling to make it through to pay your bills, and then you have this knowledge impending of death. And at my age of 52, I'm not super young anymore. Some might even say I'm an old man, but others wouldn't. I don't know, it depends on who. But there is sort of an increasing awareness of that finish line of life. And I feel like when that happens, then my longing to find someone will end and my pain will end. That's my personal faith and belief about that. But coming off of the off of a marriage and sort of landing on sort of the sidewalk, with these people on it, and you're in your 50s. Most people have either gotten married or are involved with a relationship, and all that time I was married, they went ahead and did it too, or throughout their lives found somebody. Of course, probably a good thing to go ahead with. I don't really think anyone should have to wait for me to do that. Doesn't make sense. That might even be seen as a bit obsessive. I was just kidding with that whole thing anyway. But so so it's interesting. You find yourself at age of 52. One of the things I was thinking was, I'm a perfect candidate to be seen as a creep. You know, because I'm an older guy. I've got some gray in my hair. And you find me sitting alone in a bar, and not too many people are talking to me. And so I try to talk to some people. The bartender will always talk. Sometimes there's some good looking bartenders, some women, but I'll tell you, those people are going to work until 2 a.m. and they're going to go home. Don't hit on bartenders because they have to be there. It's not fair, and they also are going to be there till the end of the night, and then there's just no way you're going to end up dating a bartender unless you're very unusually connected with that person or really hit it off with them. I don't recommend that. And I've run into some interesting things at my jobs. Where sometimes I'd seem interested in a woman, and she would sensibly say, "Well, I'm your manager, so that's not a good idea." Another time, I actually asked a woman to just take a walk with me. Now I know there's this old metaphor for that. It's not what I meant. She was a friend of mine I was working with, well, a coworker, much younger, and she had two kids. And so I said, "Hey, would you and your kids want to take a walk along the river one Sunday afternoon and just chat and hang out?" And she seemed terrified by the old creep who was trying to be a pedophile or whatever, I guess, and said, "No, no way, and you shouldn't even ask." So basically, there's this problem of this very sincere kind of a yearning and longing for a partner, for a woman to date or be with, as well as a sense that a person appears much older to many, maybe even kind of creepy. But over the years, I've done a lot of reading and studying and meditating and reflecting. I've learned a lot. It's kind of sad here at a point in my life where I feel I would be much more capable of sustaining a mature relationship and really working on some quality experiences with somebody. Yet, of course, as life often is, here's the time period. Well, I'll have to be alone. Oh, I have to laugh. So it's a difficult thing, and so there's this sense, I think, of just continual pain. The pain of longing. It's like um, I hate to use this metaphor, but with Bernie Sanders' campaign, he used to say, "Are you feeling the burn?" It sounds almost a bit obscene or something, but yeah, almost like a slight burn or an acid feeling in the body that just continues. And a person can do all these things to make that pain of longing go away. Um, Smoke dope, get drunk, sleep a lot. You can watch TV and try to just lose yourself. And those are all, and there are other things too, but the pain just seems to come back. And so I try to use that extra source of agony and loneliness and pain to write music with. And I guess that's why a lot of love songs and lonely songs were written to use the pain as some kind of fuel. But it feels like just a constant pain, and I think most lonely people feel it. And There doesn't seem to be a simple remedy, only just various things to distract from the main goal. And of course, in modernity, the huge problem, it would involve another person, and we would have to get along, and they would have to trust me, and I'd have to trust them, which is a gigantic obstacle, of course. Who could ever find someone that? It's sad, isn't it? In this world of 7.5 billion people, it's very hard to find someone who you're interested in, who's interested in you, who you have mutual trust for, who is available. And I mean, it's pretty soon you're paring it down to only two people, and they're both nuns, and that ain't gonna work. So it's not so easy. You'd think so, that it wouldn't be so difficult. So then there's this problem of I've actually become pretty good at I can watch other couples interact, not like a peeping tom, but I just see them walking around or at the bar, or, at the store, and they seem very in love. And I've got to the point where I can kind of just appreciate. Well, that's very beautiful to see. Gosh, what an ideal thing, without feeling too bitter or jealous about it. But I think a lot of people would say that's unhealthy to feel. You know, well, you shouldn't allow yourself to feel joy through these other people. Well, it's like I take what happiness I can find. at least the image of something that works well. As a musician, it kind of creates this sort of peaceful feeling or suggestion that's powerful enough that it helps me to feel it. But I guess like it's like the line in the song of the siren, which I keep listening to, which is written by a folk singer back in the '60s, um, Tim Buckley, about the journey of Ulysses after the Trojan War ended back home, and his journey back home. Um, that and also Hamlet, and also all these other references where flat out, is life providing the pleasure? Is life itself providing the meaning? If one really contemplates, at some point, a person has to decide: is it worth living? I think it is worth living, but is it going to be happy or painless? No, it'll be full of work, agony, and longing. Is it worth killing yourself for that? No, I don't think so, because I think life is still interesting and there's a lot to do and see, and I love people, and I love my life in a way. Um, to take arms against a sea of troubles in Hamlet's position, become some weird radical or isolated super freak, or screw it all. I mean, uh, it's just been done before. I remember listening to some recordings of these activists in the '60s, back when activism was the shit, and they're all talking very seriously about the type of bomb they made, and the group had made some kind of bomb that would go off in the Capitol, but it didn't go off. I don't need this kind of stuff. I'll leave it to the kids, to put the bombs in the Capitol. I don't want to do it anymore, or at all. I I never did. Okay, so I don't know how to build a bomb. I've never done that. So, but anyway, yeah, just um, some people would say like if I write music or poetry or anything when I'm lonely, it'll just be irrelevant and just from my own little planet of pain and agony. But I think I find that through art and through a lot of other culture, that a lot of people found themselves in this position of some weird attic or room, and they've been lonely, or feel loneliness or pain, or incompleteness of some kind, or some kind of fire burns them, and it's enough to light up their brain and get them to write a little bit, and it doesn't all feel completely different from how I feel. I know others have felt loneliness from the little messages and writings and songs I've heard them write, and but I guess the one of the frustrating things is I just wish people could know that someone who's lonely, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily to blame for that, or freaky or creepy. It's very possible that life has had its way, and left them sort of in this position. And they may not always or necessarily be freaky or stalkers or anything like that. They're probably people just like you and me, or maybe just me. So, but anyway, not extremely poetic, but there's my little essay on loneliness at age 52, having separated from my wife. Over and out. This has been Thomas alone.